Hello. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'll probably wait a few minutes while hopefully some more people join. Just so everybody knows, this is being recorded, um, mostly so that um, others can watch it eventually. Just as a test, I see that everyone's muted. But can you unmute yourselves at some point, or do I have to do that?
Hey, Ivan, this is David. I tried to
Yep.
unmute.
Yep. I heard you. Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, because I'm gonna do like a little brief overview um of the tournament's structure. That's the word I'm looking for. And then open it up to questions. I'm hoping that the questions are the real learning period, because I don't know what questions people have. I think those are probably going to be the most useful. Um, I'll wait, what, another couple minutes for people to get in here. All right. 8:02. I mean, this is going to be recorded. So in a certain sense, we can probably just get started and then people can join um, as we go. Again, thanks for being at the meeting. Appreciate it. Meeting is recorded. So, you know, just so everybody knows. And essentially, what that's going to be for is so that I can uh, put out a link for others that couldn't be here to watch. And like I said, I'm hoping that people have a lot of questions, or that we get a lot of questions, so that um, usually those answer questions that other people have. So questions are going to be encouraged, just like at practices. um, so yeah, uh, SC Beach. We're, I don't know if adapting is the right word, but sort of rebuilding post COVID, in the sense of beach volleyball really becoming a year round sport. It was before COVID, but now it's really seems to be accelerating into a fully year round sport, in the sense that what Coach Jake and I saw last summer during July was the amount of talent, but also the fact that the talent seems to have played beach, a lot more beach than previously. So a lot of beach athletes are playing year round, more and more. So to adapt to that in a certain sense, we are training year round, which we've done before, but just trying to get prepared for um, yeah, summer season. That's the big one. Spring, they'll be there possibly, probably will be at least one spring travel tournament, maybe even two. um So just a brief overview of the tournament structure. Um, I sent a document with pretty much all the information I'm going to cover, so you can read through that at your leisure. The bread and butter still for California are the CBVA tournaments, and a lot of those in Santa Cruz, those are the Wednesday tournaments. A lot of you have been through that, but for anyone that hasn't, the trick for Santa Cruz is signing up a month and a day in advance. And that pattern, people get pretty used to it, but it can be tricky in the beginning of the season when groups aren't set up. I'm going to try to have tryouts even earlier this year. Each year it's been a little earlier. So potentially groups have already at least been set up before the CBVA signups start. And for some of these groups that are now fairly year round, um, partnerships can be developed even before you can sign up with people you want. Um, if you don't know anyone, you potentially can sign up with someone from a group as a placeholder and then change it. It's pretty easy to change um, who your partner is in the CBVA for the Santa Cruz CBVAs. I'm not actually sure for the Southern California ones, but since Lucas runs um, the Santa Cruz CBVAs and he's the assistant director of SC Beach, it's pretty easy to make those changes. Um, as far as CBVA, the rest of it goes, the main thing is that in Southern California there are year-round tournaments, so there's potential, particularly in spring, as we get ready for the summer tournaments, going down to get some experience, play at that level, and just get used to um, going down there, staying in a hotel, those kinds of things, and it's fun. They're fun tournaments. And then really quick, on the year round, juniors are allowed to play in the adult level tournaments. Um, just depends on experience. And start with the B tournaments. B is the lowest level: A, double A, triple A / open. Um, so just so people know that. Yes, we have a question. Mute for now. So getting into the travel tournaments, there are some in June. They're not on my document. Um, most of them are CBVA tournaments. I can't remember if I think there might be one AAU national turn, or not national, regional level tournament. But the first really big one of the season is AVP Nationals. That seems to always be the week of July 4th. The tricky part about that is it requires a bid, so it requires qualification. And most of the CBVA tournaments for 2024 or for the calendar or that year leading up to the July 4th week, will give you a bid for first place and some, depending on the size of the tournament, for second and third place, I believe. The other thing to know about it is that getting a bid doesn't automatically get you in nowadays. I think it used to, but now it's also first come, first serve because it's become so big and so many players are signing up. So if you get a bid and want to attend the AVP Nationals, which is a really cool tournament, you got to sign up right away. You do not have to play with the partner that you got the bid with. So if a player receives a bid, that partnership can split up and play with different partners in the AVP Nationals tournament. Right after that is the USA Volleyball AVP Club versus Club tournament. We participated at SC Beach last year for the first time in that. And I wasn't there, Coach Jake was there. He said it was a really good experience, besides the fact that we weren't very competitive. It was really, really high level, high quality, and So that's essentially what we're trying to catch up to is Spiker right now is the best club in the country, I think, and they have a lot of very talented and good athletes. So super fun. The club versus club. I think people are starting to get used to that, but that follows the NCAA collegiate format. So that's for the 14s and 16s. They do three SC Beach teams versus three of another club. For the 18s, it would be five teams versus five teams. So when I say three teams, that's six athletes. When I say five teams, that's 10 athletes. And what happens there is the coach says, okay, this is our ones pair. This is our twos pair. So your coaches would pair up athletes. I assume that would be done on a club versus club basis. So theoretically, you could pair up friends together. It's similar to NCAA. There's a lot of factors that go into how coaches make pairings. Right after that is or I think similar timeline, AAU West Coast Junior Olympics. This is one of the tournaments that I know the least about. I know it requires a bid, and you have to qualify via AAU placement. That's about all I can say to it as of right now. There are a decent amount of AAU tournaments, but yeah, I think it's a very high quality tournament because there's not a lot of qualification tournaments, and so definitely a cool one to attend. I guess I should say real quick, I probably should have said this at the beginning, but a lot of these tournaments are obviously to play beach volleyball at the highest level or the highest junior levels, but also a decent amount of the purpose for athletes is to get exposure to college coaches and college recruiting. A lot of college coaches are at these tournaments. A lot of college coaches go for at least 2 weeks of July to Southern California. I mean, if you look at the document, most of these tournaments are in Hermosa Beach or Manhattan Beach. A few are in Santa Monica and Huntington, but it's all in a very concentrated area, which lets them, see the best beach volleyball players from all over the country. The BVCA's is one of the most prestigious tournaments. It requires club qualification, and also clubs are the ones that give bids to athletes. So there's a two-tiered qualification system. It's pretty complex. I don't think I want to go through most of it right now. I think what will happen is probably in February, maybe early April at the latest, we'll have another sort of Zoom meeting specifically for BVCAs, and essentially to decide if we want to attend as a club or not, because it is a very expensive tournament. And that's another issue I would say is most of these tournaments like CBVA, AAU, BVCA, BVNE, they all have different registrations for the year and then registrations for the tournaments. And then obviously travel is expensive. Staying in Southern California can be expensive. So it does add up. I would say that overall beach volleyball is cheaper than indoor. But the travel, the month of July travel can add up significantly if you're planning to play most of the tournaments and be in Southern California for most of the month, which is essentially what you can do. Next is AAU Nationals. This is a cool tournament because it doesn't require a bid and it's huge. So I would say priority wise, AVP Nationals is a huge priority, but it requires a bid. So as a club, I'm going to schedule CBVA and non-qualifier tournaments around the same time so we can sort of just plan to go to Southern California for the week for 4th of July week, and it won't matter as much if you qualify or not. AAU Nationals is easy to plan for because it doesn't require a bid. So definitely 3rd week of July. If you want to travel, want to go to one of the biggest junior tournaments in the country, if not the biggest, um, plan to play AAU Nationals. Again, it's also BVCA is also requires all kinds of qualification stuff, and that's the nice thing about AAUs is you can just plan to go, plan to play, and then see how we do. BVNEs is toward the end. It's a splinter of BVCA as far as I know. I don't know that much about it. It's fairly newer. One of the things that some players and parents are excited about and might make it so it um, takes off is you play your age year when the tournament is happening, actually. And I think, as far as I know, so if you are 14 when the tournament is happening, you play in the 14s. If you're 13, and they have 13s bracket and 12s brackets and 15s, and the other tournaments have all switched to a graduation year format, and they do 2-year blocks or whatever you want to call it. So there is times when uh you know uh an athlete, like most of the athletes that are freshmen in high school this year, would play in a 16s bracket, with other freshmen and with sophomores. So obviously, with the way childhood development is, athlete development is, the sophomores probably have an advantage. The BVNE does not do that, and so that um, there's some benefit to that. It's also a pretty big recruiting showcase. Um, I think that's essentially it as far as my list. The club versus club tournaments are more going to be the couple that I mentioned, and then um, less formal tournaments organized by different clubs from the area. They're really fun and cool experiences because, again, they're collegiate format, so which I really like. I like the collegiate format. CBVA and normal tournaments are fun as well, but there's more of that team feel to the collegiate format, which is why I like it. It actually, I think that's one thing that beach lacks when compared to indoor sometimes, is really feeling like a team, and the collegiate format brings that back, because you need to, if it's 3 versus 3, for example, you need to win 2 of the matches. It's 5 versus 5, which is the actual collegiate format. You need to win 3 of the matches, so 6 of your players need to play well and win, and obviously it can be any pair at any time that can make the difference. Just to round out what's on the list, P1440. Don't know much. It's got youth tournaments and adult tournaments scattered throughout the country. Kerry Walsh started it and was pushing it hard a few years ago. It seems to be making somewhat of a comeback, but I really don't know where it is on the radar. But I probably should have Volleyball Life a little bit higher on the list, because it is a really good resource for finding tournaments to play in, particularly in the Northern California area. I mean, it has plenty of Southern California tournaments too, but there are a lot of little tournaments, particularly at Half Moon Bay, and then Los Gatos Volleyball Club, or Mandala, whatever they're calling themselves, also hosts tournaments here in Santa Cruz and at West Valley. They're smaller, but a lot of them have AVP qualifier in the tournament description or whatever, which means that it does give a bid to AVP Nationals. So those smaller tournaments are promising places to be able to pick up a bid for AVP Nationals, which is one of the fun tournaments in the summer. They also have BB&E events and yeah, a lot of tournament options. So I probably will move that paragraph up the document. Um, I think that's it on my end. Like I said, I want to open it up for questions, essentially because I think that's going to provide the most value. So if you have a question, is there like a raise your hand? Um, or unmute, we can sort of go one at a time somehow, figure out some sort of system for that. Um,
Ivan,
you know,
there's a
yeah,
chat and there's already
yes.
a question in the chat.
Oh, yep,
I
sweet.
think maybe people can just type their questions too.
Oh, yeah, that can work. Yep. I see the question from Lisa. Yeah, so bids for AVP Nationals are it depends on the tournament essentially. The larger tournaments, the larger CBVA tournaments, I think give them to second place, maybe even some third place teams. There should be a rubric of that on the CBVA website. But if you win most CBVA, I should say, there are a few that have exceptions. It's really hard to figure out which ones there are. I do know one of the ones, or some of the exceptions are the week before AVP Nationals. Is called a dead period, and those tournaments do not give any bids to AVP Nationals. Um, uh, from a coaching perspective. Oh, let me finish. Well, I guess I did kind of answer the question. So the volleyball life, those smaller volleyball life tournaments are going to be good opportunities to get AVP national bids. CBVAs, playing them. We should do well. Our From a coaching perspective, now I'll answer that side of the question. Keep playing and improving. I haven't I've been away and have been busy with San Jose State, so I haven't been with a lot of our athletes recently, but I talked to Jake last night about the groups, and he says he's seeing a lot of progress. We need to get our players jumping and spiking. I tell them that all the time. uh, still see a lot of players playing a little bit safe, standing and spiking as opposed to jumping and spiking. So that's a big area for improvement that I see. But we still have a solid 6 months ahead to train, get touches. Um, I would say that's the main thing that Jake, from a coaching perspective, that Jake and I saw when we were down there last summer, was there were clearly a lot of athletes that had been training, if not year round, most of the year as beach volleyball athletes, and they were very good because of that. Other questions? Any questions are welcome, valid. Um, uh, yeah, so the question is potential travel to Southern California in the spring, where specifically? Most of the tournaments are Santa Monica, Hermosa Beach, or Manhattan Beach, and specifically Hermosa Beach and Manhattan Beach. Those are the big tournaments. Those are the tournaments where we can we get a group and we can send coaches, because that's going to be the main issue for me, is whether we have enough players to create a money pool so that I can pay Coach Jake or myself, or Coach Zach is down there. Luckily, he's living in Santa Monica, so maybe we can save some money that way. Coach Rowdy lives down there sometimes, so there are potential ways to save some money. Other travel tournaments, there are potentially I'll have to look. The other thing I should mention that makes this all a hassle is I think organizations are getting better at this, but realistically, they're not very good about getting their schedules out early, particularly the CBVA. So last year, I think I had put our groups together. I think I did it mid to late April, which is pretty late, and the CBVA still hadn't posted their summer schedule, which summer youth tournament schedule or something like that. So um, planning can be a little bit of a nightmare when CBVA and other organizations don't post their schedule early. That said, Lisa brought it to my attention. I thought I sent an email, but I might not have. That Volleyball Life does have tournaments in Northern California posted through at least winter and maybe even into some of spring. So for those that want to get in on some of those tournaments, volleyballlife.com, start getting into them. Okay, that's a good question. So the question is, are most of these tournaments single day or multiple days? Is typical travel coming in the night before due to early starts? So the national tournaments, those July tournaments that I sort of listed at the beginning, are a lot of them are multi-day tournaments. I think that's factored in by the organizations, is that there are players traveling from all over the country to attend these tournaments. So it would be kind of a bummer to come and play for a day or half a day, play pool play, which is sort of the standard tournament, not make it out of pool play, and then have to leave. So if we use AVP Nationals as an example, there's at least one day of pool play. There might even be, I think, just one now. There's one day of pool play, and then one day of bracket play you're guaranteed. And those that do really well would get a third day of bracket play. Thank you, Lisa. Yes, Mavericks, the Half Moon Bay has lots of tournaments posted. So, and the other like spring tournaments would probably just be a single day tournament. Probably going the night before, because it would be an early start. It depends on how much money you want to save by not having a hotel. But for those big national tournament events, it would be at least one night of hotel stay, because pool play and then bracket play. That's most of the formats, and probably at least one the night before, because they usually start at 9 a.m. and check-in time starts at 8:15. Any other questions, comments? Not seeing anything. Yeah, so I mean, I would say the main thing for me is just figuring out organization, and getting groups down to LA to participate in these tournaments is going to be really awesome. They're also just fun, obviously for some, recruiting will be a big factor, but for others it might just be the fun of competition. And the cool thing about beach volleyball is it is a small community, so you get to make friends with people from all over the country, good players. Now that most clubs are teaching the number system and stuff, you can meet people that you'll play with, or that these kids will play with later in life, and they can just sort of seamlessly play together, which is cool. It's definitely, beach volleyball is going through some cool developments. Another question. So what's the process from the parent or player side? Do we tell you which tournament we want to participate in? Or do you let us know which would be a good fit for us? So essentially what I've been trying to do is at the beginning of the season when schedules are posted, I go through and put together a spreadsheet of um possible tournaments, at least that I can try to have coaches at. Um there's everyone is always welcome to travel to tournaments and play them, and there probably will be good experiences. It's good experience to play some of these tournaments without coaches too, right? Kids and athletes learn from their own mistakes and from teaching themselves essentially. So it's not that you want to have coaches at every tournament anyway. As far as I might be losing sight of the question. Um, as far as picking the tournaments, the ideal at this point, as the club is as I won't say growing, regrowing, is to essentially have coaches at all of the tournaments through July. So the main picking process would maybe be the spring and June tournaments if we do that, and um, picking which warm up tournaments, and that would be sending out some emails with some potential dates, trying to form a consensus so we can go as a larger group as opposed to just I've been at a couple tournaments now because I can overlap some of it with recruiting for me, so I don't necessarily have to have athletes to fund me going down there. But having a big group obviously makes it so we can have more fun as a group and have more coaches and just have um, a good time. Okay. As a coach, do you recommend prioritizing attending camps or participating in travel tournaments or a mix of both? um I would say probably a mix of both. At the younger ages, probably the tournaments are usually where coaches are going to start putting their lists together, right? Names that they want to be aware of. Um, yeah, things like that. Graduation years. I know that most coaches now are putting lists for 2026 graduation year together. And then as they become aware, obviously attending camps where athletes are interested in going is definitely beneficial. Reaching out to those coaches is beneficial. I'll definitely try to put something together specific to recruiting as I become more familiar with the process, since I'm becoming involved with the San Jose State recruiting. So yeah, I think we'll do another one of these specific to recruiting, um, probably in the spring at some point. But at the younger ages, I would say tournaments, um, as you hit as they hit sophomore, probably sophomore and junior year, um, uh, starting to really try to get to camps where there's coaches. A lot there are tournaments like specifically the BVNE and I think the BVCA have coach clinics the day before the tournaments start. So that's another benefit of attending a tournament like that is you can sort of do both, and there'll be a lot of college coaches at those clinics. I know beach is a very independent sport. Does SC Beach have any club goals? I mean, I I haven't necessarily written anything down. The goal is sort of always to win a national championship. We have done that in the past. We won a BBCA pairs championship. We haven't won a club championship. And that at that time, BBCA was the biggest tournament in the country. So yeah, win another one. I'm not exactly sure what tournament now anyone would consider the most prestigious. So I don't know if there's a specific tournament to target. Like I said, at one point the BVCA tournament was the most prestigious, and Coach Lucas and Coach Alex, I think, were the coaches for the national championship winning team. All right. If there aren't any other questions, I think we will end it there. Don't want to keep everyone super long, and also just don't want the video to be super long. If you have any other questions, always feel free to email me or reach out. Whatever. Okay. If this group continues training this winter together, do you see us being competitive if we travel south this summer? Yeah, I mean that's the point of the group. I obviously can't speak to what the talent level will be for their age. You know, they will be. This is specific to our 14s group. Our 14s group will be in the upper end of their age bracket, so that's a benefit. That's the hope. And that's the plan. That's what Jake and I are working toward. That was the idea as of the end of last summer when we tried to put this group together. Now obviously it'll depend on Coach Jake and I. It'll depend on the athletes, and you know, we'll try our best.
Actually,